It was at a church service where Mike met the love of his life, Karen. They married and have 3 children, Michael, Charlotte, and Audrey.
I'm a Christian, a conservative, and a Republican, in that order.
Mike became the president of a free market think tank, the host of a statewide conservative radio show, and then a congressman. In Washington, Mike quickly became known as a foremost defender of freedom. He led conservatives in the fight to protect our time-honored values of family, faith, life, liberty, and limited government.
Our nation's strength begins at home because strong families make a strong America.
Mike earned the trust of the people of his state and became the 50th governor of Indiana. He delivered the largest state tax cut in Indiana history, expanded school choice, led the country in manufacturing, and helped more Hoosiers get to work than ever before. But he wasn't through.
ABC News has learned that Donald Trump will choose Indiana Governor Mike Pence to be his running mate.
I would like to introduce a man who I truly believe will be the next vice president of the United States, Governor Mike Pence.
As our vice president, Mike Pence has held tightly to those threads of freedom woven through our history. Leading with those principles alongside President Trump, our nation experienced prosperity like never before.
He is solid as a rock. He's been a fantastic vice president.
And now, in these uncertain days, we are equipped to overcome. In times of trouble, some call to retreat from those ideals. But Americans throughout history have lifted them in triumph, hope, and resilience. Mike Pence knows those stars and stripes do not merely represent who we are, but more importantly, what we can be. As the sun rises again on America, we lift our eyes to those lofty truths to guide our country and every one of us to greater heights. In this land of the free and home of the brave. Vice President Mike Pence.
Please welcome the Vice President of the United States, Mike Pence, accompanied by the Second Lady, Mrs. Karen Pence.
Good evening, America. It's an honor to speak to you tonight from the hallowed grounds of Fort McHenry, the site of the very battle that inspired the words of our national anthem. Those words have inspired this land of heroes in every generation since. It was on this site 206 years ago when our young republic heroically withstood a ferocious naval bombardment from the most powerful empire on earth. They came to crush our revolution, to divide our nation, and to end the American experiment. The heroes who held this fort took their stand for life, liberty, freedom, and the American flag. And those ideals have defined our nation. But they were hardly ever mentioned at last week's Democratic National Convention. Instead, Democrats spent 4 days attacking America. Joe Biden said that we were living through a season of darkness. But as President Trump said, where Joe Biden sees American darkness, we see American greatness. In these challenging times, our country needs a president who believes in America, who believes in the boundless capacity of the American people to meet any challenge, defeat any foe, and defend the freedoms we hold dear. America needs 4 more years of President Donald Trump in the White House. Before I go further, allow me to say a word to the families and communities in the path of Hurricane Laura. Our prayers are with you tonight, and our administration is working closely with authorities in the states that will be impacted. FEMA has mobilized resources and supplies for those in harm's way. This is a serious storm, and we urge all those in the affected areas to heed state and local authorities. Stay safe. And know that we'll be with you every step of the way to support, rescue, respond, and recover in the days and weeks ahead. That's what Americans do. Four years ago, I answered the call to join this ticket because I knew that Donald Trump had the leadership and the vision to make America great again. And for the last 4 years, I've watched this president endure unrelenting attacks, but get up every day and fight to keep the promises that he made to the American people. So with gratitude for the confidence President Donald Trump has placed in me, the support of our Republican Party, and the grace of God, I humbly accept your nomination to run and serve as Vice President of the United States. Serving the American people in this office has been a journey I never expected. It's a journey that would not have been possible without the support of my family, beginning with my wonderful wife, Karen. She's a lifelong school teacher, an incredible mother to our 3 children. And she is one outstanding Second Lady of the United States. I'm so proud of you. And we couldn't be more proud of our 3 children. Marine Corps Captain Michael J. Pence and his wife, Sarah. Our daughter, Charlotte Pence Bond, an author, and the wife to Lieutenant Henry Bond, who is currently deployed and serving our nation in the United States Navy. And our youngest, a recent law school grad, our daughter Audrey, and her fiancé, who, like so many other Americans, had to delay their wedding this summer. But we can't wait for Dan to be a part of our family. In addition, my wife and kids, the person who shaped my life the most is also with us tonight. My mom, Nancy. She is the daughter of an Irish immigrant, 87 years young. And Mom follows politics very closely. And the truth be told, sometimes I think I'm actually her second favorite candidate on the Trump-Pence ticket. Thank you, Mom. I love you. Over the past 4 years, I've had the privilege to work closely with our president. I've seen him when the cameras are off. Americans see President Trump in lots of different ways. But there's no doubt how President Trump sees America. He sees America for what it is. A nation that has done more good in this world than any other. A nation that deserves far more gratitude than grievance. And if you want a president who falls silent when our heritage is demeaned or insulted, he's not your man. Now, we came by very different routes to this partnership. And some people think we're a little bit different. But you know, I've learned a few things watching him. Watching him deal with all that we've been through over the past 4 years. He does things in his own way, on his own terms. Not much gets past him. And when he has an opinion, he's liable to share it. He's certainly kept things interesting. But more importantly, President Donald Trump has kept his word to the American people. In a city known for talkers, President Trump is a doer. And few presidents have brought more independence, energy, or determination to that office. 4 years ago, we inherited a military hollowed out by devastating budget cuts, an economy struggling to break out of the slowest recovery since the Great Depression. ISIS controlled a land mass twice the size of Pennsylvania. And we witnessed a steady assault on our most cherished values, freedom of religion and the right to life. That's when President Donald Trump stepped in. And from day one, he kept his word. We rebuilt our military. This president signed the largest increase in our national defense since the days of Ronald Reagan and created the first new branch of our armed forces in 70 years, the United States Space Force. And with that renewed energy, we also returned American astronauts to space on an American rocket for the first time in nearly 10 years. And after years of scandal that robbed our veterans of the care that you earn in the uniform of the United States, President Trump kept his word again. We reformed the VA, and Veterans Choice is now available for every veteran in America. Our armed forces and our veterans fill this land of heroes. And many join us tonight in this historic. Tonight we have among us 4 recipients of the Medal of Honor. Six recipients of the Purple Heart. A Gold Star mother of a gallant Navy SEAL. And wounded warriors from Soldier Strong, a group that serves our injured veterans every day. We are honored by your presence, and we thank you for your service. With heroes just like these, we defend this nation every day. And under this commander-in-chief, we've taken the fight to radical Islamic terrorists on our terms, on their soil. Last year, American armed forces took the last inch of ISIS territory crushed their caliphate, and took down their leader without one American casualty. And I was there when President Trump gave the order to take out the world's most dangerous terrorist. Iran's top general will never harm another American because Qasem Soleimani is gone. My fellow Americans, you deserve to know. Joe Biden criticized President Trump following those decisions to rid the world of two terrorist leaders. But it's not surprising, because history records that Joe Biden even opposed the operation that took down Osama bin Laden. It's no wonder that the Secretary of Defense under the Obama-Biden administration once said that Joe Biden has been, and I quote, wrong on nearly every major foreign policy and national security issue over the past 4 decades. So we've stood up to our enemies, and we've stood with our allies. Like when President Trump kept his word and moved the American embassy to Jerusalem, the capital of the state of Israel, setting the stage for the first Arab country to recognize Israel in 26 years. Closer to home, we appointed more than 200 conservative judges to our federal courts. We supported the right to life and all the God-given liberties enshrined in our Constitution, including the Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms. And when it came to the economy, President Trump kept his word and then some. We passed the largest tax cut and reform in American history. We rolled back more federal red tape than any administration ever had. We unleashed American energy and fought for free and fair trade. And in our first 3 years, businesses large and small created more than 7 million good-paying jobs, including 500,000 manufacturing jobs all across America. Our country became a net exporter of energy for the first time in 70 years. Unemployment rates for African Americans and Hispanic Americans hit the lowest level ever recorded. And on this 100th anniversary of the woman's right to vote, I'm proud to report that under President Donald Trump, we achieved the lowest unemployment rate for women in 65 years. And more Americans working than ever before. In our first 3 years, we built the greatest economy in the world. We made America great again. And then the coronavirus struck from China. Before the first case of the coronavirus spread within the United States, the president took unprecedented action and suspended all travel from China, the second largest economy in the world. Now, that action saved untold American lives. And I can tell you firsthand, it bought us invaluable time to launch the greatest national mobilization since World War II. President Trump marshaled the full resources of our federal government from the outset. He directed us to forge a seamless partnership with governors across America in both political parties. We partnered with private industry to reinvent testing and produce supplies that were distributed to hospitals around the land. Today, we're conducting more than 800,000 tests a day. And we have coordinated the delivery of billions of pieces of personal protective equipment for our amazing doctors, nurses, and healthcare workers. We saw to the manufacture of 100,000 ventilators in 100 days. And no one who required a ventilator was ever denied a ventilator in the United States. We built hospitals, surged military medical personnel, and enacted an economic rescue package that saved 50 million American jobs. As we speak, we're developing a growing number of treatments known as therapeutics, including convalescent plasma, that are saving lives all across America. Now, last week, Joe Biden said that no miracle is coming. Well, what Joe doesn't seem to understand is that America is a nation of miracles. And I'm proud to report that we're on track to have the world's first safe, effective coronavirus vaccine by the end of this year. After all the sacrifice in this year like no other, all the hardship, we're finding our way forward again. But tonight, our hearts are with all the families who've lost loved ones and have family members still struggling with serious illness. In this country, we mourn with those who mourn. We grieve with those who grieve. And this night, I know that millions of Americans will pause and pray for God's comfort for each of you. You know, our country doesn't get through such a time unless its people find strength within. The response of doctors, nurses, first responders, farmers, factory workers, truckers, and everyday Americans who put the health and safety of their neighbors first has been nothing short of heroic. Veronica Sayez put on her scrubs every day in and day out, went to work in one of New York City's busiest hospitals. She stayed on the job, put in the long hours until it was done, and then got back in her neighborhood and helped neighbors and friends struggling. Her brother William is a New York City firefighter. And they're both emblematic of heroes all across this country. They're with us tonight. And I say to them and to all of you, you have earned the admiration of the American people, and we will always be grateful for your service and care. Thanks to the courage and compassion of the American people, we're slowing the spread. We're protecting the vulnerable. And we're saving lives. And we're opening up America again. Because of the strong foundation that President Trump poured in our first 3 years, we've already gained back 9.3 million jobs in the last 3 months alone. And we're not just opening up America again. We're opening up America's schools. And I'm proud to report that my wife, Karen, that school teacher I've been married to, will be returning to her classroom next week. And so to all of our heroic teachers and faculty and staff, thank you for being there for our kids. We're going to stay with you every step of the way. In the days ahead, as we open up America again, I promise you, we'll continue to put the health of America first. And as we work to bring this economy back, we all have a role to play. And we all have a choice to make. On November 3rd, you need to ask yourself, who do you trust to rebuild this economy? A career politician who presided over the slowest economic recovery since the Great Depression, or a proven leader who created the greatest economy in the world? The choice is clear. To bring America all the way back, we need 4 more years of President Donald Trump in the White House. My fellow Americans, we're passing through a time of testing. But in the midst of this global pandemic, just as our nation had begun to recover, we've seen violence and chaos in the streets of our major cities. President Trump and I will always support the right of Americans to peaceful protest. But rioting and looting is not peaceful protest. Tearing down statues is not free speech. And those who do so will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. Last week, Joe Biden didn't say one word about the violence and chaos engulfing cities across this country. So let me be clear. The violence must stop, whether in Minneapolis, Portland, or Kenosha. Too many heroes have died defending our freedom to see Americans strike each other down. We will have law and order on the streets of this country for every American of every race and creed and color. President Trump and I know that the men and women that put on the uniform of law enforcement are the best of us. Every day, when they walk out that door, they consider our lives more important than their own. People like Dave Patrick Underwood, an officer in the Department of Homeland Security's Federal Protective Service, who was shot and killed during the riots in Oakland, California. Dave's heroism is emblematic of the heroes that serve in blue every day. We're privileged tonight to be joined by his sister, Angela. Angela, we say to you, we grieve with your family. And America will never forget or fail to honor Officer Dave Patrick Underwood. The American people know we don't have to choose between supporting law enforcement and standing with our African American neighbors to improve the quality of their lives, education, jobs, and safety. And from the first days of this administration, we've done both. And we will keep supporting law enforcement and keep supporting our African American and minority communities across this land for 4 more years. Now, Joe Biden says that America is systemically racist and that law enforcement in America has, and I quote, an implicit bias against minorities. When asked whether he'd support cutting funding to law enforcement, Joe Biden replied, yes, absolutely. Joe Biden would double down on the very policies that are leading to violence in America's cities. The hard truth is, you won't be safe in Joe Biden's America. And under President Trump, We will always stand with those who stand on the thin blue line, and we're not going to defund the police, not now, not ever. My fellow Americans, we're passing through a time of testing, but soon we will come to a time for choosing. Joe Biden has referred to himself as a transition candidate, and many were asking, transition to what? But last week, Democrats didn't talk very much about their agenda. And if I were them, I wouldn't either. I mean, Bernie Sanders did tell his followers that Joe Biden would be the most liberal president in modern times. In fact, he said, and I quote, that many of the ideas he fought for, that just a few years ago were considered radical, are now mainstream in the Democratic Party. At the root of their agenda is the belief that America is driven by envy, not aspiration. That millions of Americans harbor ill will toward our neighbors instead of loving our neighbors as ourselves. The radical left believes that the federal government must be involved in every aspect of our lives to correct those American wrongs. They believe the federal government needs to dictate how Americans live, how we should work, how we should raise our children, and in the process deprive our people of freedom, prosperity, and security. Their agenda is based on government control. Our agenda is based on freedom. Where President Trump cut taxes, Joe Biden wants to raise taxes by nearly $4 trillion. Where this president achieved energy independence for the United States, Joe Biden would abolish fossil fuels, end fracking, and impose a regime of climate change regulations that would drastically increase the cost of living for working families. Where we fought for free and fair trade, and this president stood up to China and ended the era of economic surrender, Joe Biden has been a cheerleader for communist China. He wants to repeal all the tariffs that are leveling the playing field for American workers. And he actually criticized President Trump for suspending all travel to China at the outset of this pandemic. Joe Biden is for open borders, sanctuary cities, free lawyers and health care for illegal immigrants. And President Trump, he secured our border and built nearly 300 miles of that border wall. Joe Biden wants to end school choice. And President Trump believes that every parent should have the right to choose where their children go to school, regardless of their income or area code. President Trump has stood without apology for the sanctity of human life every day of this administration. Joe Biden, he supports taxpayer funding of abortion right up to the moment of birth. When you consider their agenda, it's clear. Joe Biden would be nothing more than a Trojan horse for the radical left. The choice in this election has never been clearer, and the stakes have never been higher. Last week, Joe Biden said democracy's on the ballot. And the truth is, our economic recovery is on the ballot. Law and order are on the ballot. But so are things far more fundamental and foundational to our country. In this election, it's not so much whether America will be more conservative or more liberal, more Republican or more Democrat. The choice in this election is whether America remains America. It's whether we will leave to our children and our grandchildren a country grounded in our highest ideals, of freedom, free markets, and the unalienable right to life and liberty, or whether we will leave them a country that's fundamentally transformed into something else. We stand at a crossroads, America. President Trump has set our nation on a path of freedom and opportunity. Joe Biden would set America on a path of socialism and decline. But we're not going to let it happen. President Donald Trump believes in America and in the goodness of the American people, the boundless potential of every American to live out their dreams in freedom. And every day, President Trump has been fighting to protect the promise of America. Every day, our president has been fighting to expand the reach of the American dream. Every day, President Donald Trump has been fighting for you. And now it's our turn to fight for him. On this night, in the company of heroes, I'm deeply grateful. Deeply grateful for the privilege of serving as vice president of this great nation and to have the opportunity to serve again. I pray to be worthy of it, and I will give that duty all that's in me. In the year 2020, the American people have had more than our share of challenges. But thankfully, we have a president with the toughness, energy, and resolve to see us through. Now, those traits actually run in our national character. As the invading force learned on approach to this fort in September of 1814, against fierce and sustained bombardment, our young country was defended by heroes, not so different from those who are with us tonight. The enemy was counting on them to quit, but they never did. Fort McHenry held, and when morning came, our flag was still here. My fellow Americans, we're going through a time of testing. But if you look through the fog of these challenging times, you will see our flag is still there today. That star-spangled banner still waves over the land of the free and the home of the brave. From these hallowed grounds, American patriots in generations gone by did their part to defend freedom. Now it's our turn. So let's run the race marked out for us. Let's fix our eyes on Old Glory and all she represents. Let's fix our eyes on this land of heroes and let their courage inspire. And let's fix our eyes on the author and perfecter of our faith and our freedom. And never forget that where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. That means freedom always wins. My fellow Americans, thank you for the honor of addressing you tonight and the opportunity to run and serve again as your vice president. I leave here today inspired. And I leave here today more convinced than ever that we will do in our time, as Americans have done throughout our long and storied past. We will defend our freedom and our way of life. We will reelect our president and principled Republican leaders across the land. And with President Donald Trump in the White House for 4 more years, and with God's help, we will make America great again. Again. Thank you. God bless you. And God bless the United States of America.
Oh my God.
Let's make America great again. Again. It's not an SNL skit like that. He said that. That was what he ended his speech with. We've had 4 years of Donald Trump. There's civil unrest. 177,000 Americans are dead from the pandemic. Children were ripped away from their parents at the border and put in cages. Dozens of asylum seekers were found dead in those cages. Donald Trump has embarrassed the country over and over and over again. His trade war has led to an uptick in suicides among our farmers. Tens of millions of Americans are unemployed. I mean, I guess we have to. I guess we have to listen to this. No, we don't. Okay, great. We don't. They've had 4 years and they think they've made America great again. It's not great. They're so lazy that they didn't even take time to come up with like a new slogan.
No, he started the speech by saying, "We've made America great again." If America's great again, why do you have to make it great again? I'm like, I can't. And like, that was the cherry on top of that boring ass speech that we had to sit through. The most standard Republican talking point speech with the most uncharismatic, insincere robot in the world in Mike Pence, where he just hit on every talking point. Oh my God. You want to talk about Qasem Soleimani? Okay, 170,000 plus Americans have died from COVID. Oh, you really want to talk about the amount of judges you've appointed? Tens of millions of Americans, 30 plus million Americans are unemployed. Like, it was so, like, you could have made that Republican speech in 2012 and no one would have noticed anything different. There was nothing original.
So Mike Pence is not a charismatic speaker. I think that I still stand by what I said earlier in that the RNC is better at messaging compared to the DNC. However, Mike Pence has always had an issue with charisma. I had a difficult time paying attention to his speech. I think Lara Trump, even with all the lies that she was spewing during her speech, was much more engaging. I think that Kayleigh McEnany was much more engaging.
Kayleigh McEnany was the best speech of the entire RNC thus far. Sorry, Anna.
No, you're right. I agree with you because she had the ability to humanize, first of all, humanize herself in a way that I didn't think was possible, but humanize Republicans. Because remember, the thing that was really missing, I mean, there's a lot missing from the Republican Party, there's no question, especially in this Trump era. But what did Biden really focus on for the DNC? This whole message of empathy and compassion, and it was all about humanizing him. I mean, how many videos did we see or how many speeches did we hear that talked about his empathy, his relationship with his family, how much he loved his family? It was all about humanizing him and painting this picture of this kind-hearted person. And so I think Kayleigh McEnany and people like her were given opportunities to speak during the RNC because, yeah, she was great at communicating in a way that made you feel empathy for her or sympathy for her. And so, okay, there's that. Pence, on the other hand, is just not an engaging speaker. And you're right. I mean, he hit on all of the standard Republican talking points, but there were so many moments where the lies are so blatant and brazen, and I can't. He's talking about conquering Islamic terrorists. Are you kidding me? The United States has a problem with domestic terrorism. Domestic terrorists killed 2 demonstrators in Wisconsin last night alone. But the Department of Homeland Security, let me just finish this one point. And I tweeted this story, so please check it out. Politico reported about how the Department of Homeland Security has been urging Trump to do something about domestic terror. And guess what he did? Ignored it because he loves domestic terrorists. Domestic terrorists love Trump. So if they're murdering Americans on American soil who happen to disagree with Trump, who happen to want to speak out against extrajudicial killings on American soil committed by police officers, Trump's all for it. Who cares? Great, very fine people. We have a terrorism problem in the United States. It's been ignored for a while, but it's been amplified by Donald Trump. It's been greenlit by Donald Trump. Go ahead, Emma.
Yeah, no, sorry, it's the virtual thing. It's hard to know when to jump in, but yeah, no, I couldn't agree with you more. And I think that it was just like copy paste jingoism, copy paste xenophobia, copy paste conservative values. Like there was absolutely nothing original that he brought to the table there. And I'm kind of blanking on the point that I was going to make when we were talking about terrorism. So it'll come to me.
No, but I mean, terrorism, it's just amazing because like when the Trump administration took out Qasem Soleimani, first of all, there were a lot of potential downsides to that. Like that could have led to a full-blown war with Iran. And luckily it didn't, but the potential downsides significantly outweighed the upsides. And what do I mean by upsides? Okay, so if you're somehow miraculously a Trump supporter watching this right now, how did your life improve after Qasem Soleimani, an Iranian general, was murdered? How did your life improve? It didn't. But we have domestic terrorists here in the United States right now who are emboldened, who are colluding with local police officials to kill demonstrators. That's okay? And by the way, for all you pathetic right wingers who are like, oh, that 17-year-old militia guy was defending himself. He shot a demonstrator in the head. And as people were chasing him down after he murdered someone, he opened fire again. But all you see from the Jesse Waters and these disgusting right wingers, apologists for domestic terrorists in this country, all you see from them is a short snippet where a protester managed to get this 17-year-old murderer on the ground. Yeah. And he's defending himself. He's defending himself. No, he wasn't defending himself. Well, what happened was he shot a demonstrator in the head and then he got chased down by protesters. You guys are pathetic and disgusting to support that kind of domestic terror. Yeah, I mean, sorry, Emma. No, you're right. It's again virtual. I can't figure it out. It's tough. But yeah, no, there's just the delay. So completely correct there. And they talk about how Obama was a terrorist sympathizer. Remember? Yeah. Who's the terrorist sympathizer who's literally making excuses for a domestic terrorist that just killed 2 people in Wisconsin? It's Jesse Waters, it's Tucker Carlson who are making that argument tonight. Yeah. And what is the Republicans' message on foreign policy? Because Donald Trump Jr. on night 1 said that Trump was going to end the wars. Insane that hasn't happened, or that Trump had ended the wars and will do it. Like that's not the reality. Trump removed a rule that Obama put in place that had to record drone strikes, which was threadbare as it is, and the civilian deaths in that case. Trump has vetoed a bill that went through that would get rid of our involvement in Yemen. So we continue to fund a genocide in Yemen over and over again. And then you have Mike Pence coming out here and bragging about how we're defeating terrorists in the middle of a domestic crisis, multiple domestic crises of racial unrest, of mass unemployment and economic despair and a pandemic. So who is this appealing to? Who is this appealing to except the base? But the base can't even figure it out. Are they the paleo-conservative pretenders on the Tucker Carlson, Rand Paul side? Or are they the people that want to assassinate a major governmental leader like Qasem Soleimani and then cheer over it and who cares about the consequences? What is the right's philosophy when it comes to foreign policy? So I don't understand that. And I don't understand why it was such a big focus of Pence's speech.
again, the only reason we're not in a massive war with Iran right now is because of the restraint of Iran and nothing to do with us. So we should thank them.
No, exactly. That's exactly right. And let me just remind everyone that all of the antagonistic rhetoric that we hear from the Trump administration toward China, especially when they mention China as a communist country and ooh, communist, big boogeyman. Remember, North Korea is communist, right? And Donald Trump went on a world tour to talk about how he fell in love with Kim Jong-un, a brutal dictator who puts his own people into concentration camps. And it's not about communism. Like the rhetoric, by the way, and to be fair, while the Trump administration, the Trump campaign keeps arguing that Biden's a softie for China, are you kidding me? The pivot to China happened under the Obama administration. It had nothing to do with communism. It had everything to do with our corporate interests getting threatened by real competition by Chinese tech companies. That was really the heart of why the Obama administration started pivoting toward being a little more hostile toward China, okay? And that continued under Trump. It was amplified under Trump. It's just that he's not really a sophisticated person. And so he's, I think, less savvy in hiding the real reasons why we're antagonizing China. But look, I'm talking about this as if like Trump voters know what's going on or as if they know or care about what the truth is. But China develops 5G technology and all of a sudden they're the boogeymen. It's because they're kicking our asses. We don't invest in education in this country. We don't invest in our own people. And so rather than being able, I mean, capitalism is all about competing, right? We should be able to compete with China. We're supposed to be the best and the brightest. US exceptionalism, American exceptionalism. Oh no, but we can't beat them. So why don't we go to war? And that's what terrifies me about the Trump administration, in addition to everything else that's going on. The rhetoric, which keeps getting ramped up and up and up, is scary stuff because China is not a joke. China is not some small rinky-dink country. They have been expanding their military capabilities. And when you hear Trump and Pence and anyone in the right wing ramp up their rhetoric in regard to China, and then at the same time, like goad Biden into ramping up his own rhetoric, that is some terrifying stuff. Because where does this end? I don't know why I started going off on this tangent, but it's just the foreign policy stuff. Everyone's full of it. But there's this unhinged and also unsophisticated way of going about things on the right. And that terrifies me with Trump. I don't know what he's capable of doing or what he will do if he gets reelected and has another 4 years to mess around with his, short-sighted, incredibly ignorant foreign policy, strategies.
Yeah, and Mike Pompeo is the Secretary of State, and we're basically operating under the assumption that Trump won't go so far as to instigate with China, even though his rhetoric says that he will. But just think about what a war with China would look like. Like an actual war. Just think about it for a second. Because Americans are so goddamn privileged. We don't know what war's like.
No, we don't. New York, we haven't seen it on our soil.
Yeah, imagine Chinese troops. Not because China's some nefarious, terrible actor, but because of instigation by a hawkish administration at your door, gunning down your family. Like that's the reality of the United States declining as a superpower. And we don't get to behave like the bully that just invades any country we want and then kill their civilians and then do some glossy ad on TV for joining the military and pretending like everything's okay. No, that's the realities of war.
Yeah,
never.
You're absolutely right.
This generation, generations before, yes, we've sent people to war. Vietnam, people understand how horrific it is, but that was a war in another country. Imagine a war on our soil, and then maybe consider who you're. I mean, not that Joe Biden is some dove. Again, voted for the Iraq War, but Trump's recklessness adds an entirely new wrinkle to it. The only thing literally saving us from any war with a big superpower like China is because he cares about the economic consequences for himself.
So,
real tangent, but I don't think anyone's talking about it, and so I think it was important for us to talk about.
Yeah, I agree. And we gotta add something different to the mix. And so we're gonna end pretty soon for the general audience, but we will have a very short post game for our members, about 15 minutes, to just kind of decompress and talk about the night overall. So if you're not a member, please join. Because of our members, we're able to do extra programming like the coverage you're experiencing tonight. You can join by going to tyt.com/join. And I'm gonna go ahead and read some of our new members' names, some super chats. So we have Dan M, Sonia Saab, Harry SK, Thomas, More to Live For, Rob L, Mary Webb, and Big Dre. Thank you guys. You guys are brand new members, and we appreciate your support and your help. Thanks to you, we're able to do what we're doing tonight. And in our super chat comments, James Sweeney says the blatant lies, 177,000 are dead because of lies. And you're right about that. To hear Pence brag about how great the country is, again, I just go back to it. If this is considered great, and if the best is yet to come, I just want the opposite. Give me the opposite. The best is yet to. The Elmo gif is perfect for that. It's so perfect.
I'm gonna use it for so many things for the rest of my life. I have that video saved if you want it.
It's so good. Yes, I want it. Ian Kinzel says, is it wrong that when Marsha Blackburn talks about her dad coming home to be a cop, I picture her saying, and there's a 50% chance he beat my mom? We made some inappropriate jokes during her speech, which we will not.
I love you for it.
We will not air here.
I'm sorry, which is the member? What's her name?
Ian.
Ian? Yeah. Not he, Ian. Good job. Good joke.
Ray Riley says, I'm so tired of this BS cancel culture narrative at the RNC, especially because they had to cancel the speech of a QAnon person who just recently tweeted too many anti-Semitic conspiracy theories. So they had to cancel that pre-recorded speech for the RNC. So that's also cancel culture, right? But that's the kind that makes sense. I'm not getting on them for doing that. That's the right thing to do. But let's also keep it real. Donald Trump loves QAnon type people. I'm gonna read one more super chat. More to Live writes in, I can't wait. Dressing all the women in white is a disgusting symbol of women only being valid if they meet the men's purity standards. Gross. Oh, I just can't. Not I just can't wait. I just can't. That's how the comment started. Yeah.
That's
anyway,
a good point. I didn't realize that at first.
Yeah. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the show. As I mentioned, we will be doing a members only portion that's only exclusive or is exclusive to our members. You can become a member and help support TYT by going to tyt.com/join. And for everyone who can't join us for members content, have a great night. We will see you tomorrow. For everyone else, check us out for our 15-minute post game.
Thanks for listening to the full episode of The Young Turks. Support our work, listen ad-free, access members-only bonus content, and more by subscribing to Apple Podcasts at apple.co/TYT. I'm your host, Cenk Uygur, and I'll see you soon.